Good morning and welcome to day 19 of 20 Connect hashtag. Today I'd like to discuss So You Got a GOTS. And I'd also like to discuss how I grow, how I deal with change, how I deal with discomfort in my life, because that's usually pointing to an area that I need to work on. So I use a lot of terms, a lot of slogans, a lot of little expressions, because when I'm in the middle of a crisis or I'm overwhelmed or something like that, I'm not very good with complex, go read this 300-page book. That doesn't work for me. So I need these like little slogans or little reminders that are easy to pick up, grab hold of, and use for those particular situations. So whenever I'm using, I'll say something like, oh, I got a GOTS. And I usually say, it's a little sarcastic, but GOTS, GOTS, stands for Growth Opportunity That Sucks. So when I have a GOT, when I've got a GOTS, it's usually a situation where I hadn't planned for this. This wasn't something I saw coming, or this was the worst possible thing, or this is just kind of came out of nowhere. And previously, what I would do is I would assign it as bad. This is a bad thing that happened. And, like I got a flat tire and now I have to replace 4 tires. Oh, that's a bad thing. And then I'd be in a bad mood the whole day. And, I wouldn't focus on the fact that I'm grateful that I have the money, the resources to go out and fix those 4 tires and not have to decide between, do I pay my rent or, do I feed my family or anything like that. That's what I do now. But in the past, what I would do is I would assign that is a bad thing. It has happened to me. And so therefore, I'm going to be upset about it. And I find that to me doesn't work anymore. I don't want to spend a lot of energy on things that they just are. That idea for me of, well, this is a good thing or this is a bad thing. I am very limited in my perspective and on the timeline in being able to assign something that to me is that big as far as good or bad. Case in point, something that in the immediate sense may seem really bad may ultimately, when I look back on it, I go, oh wow, that was actually it was just a fork in the road that I hadn't wanted to take, but where I'm at now is much more wonderful. Case in point, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, I was in a relationship with a man and that ended, and I thought, oh, this is absolutely awful, but that was the last thing that really was tying me to Louisville, Kentucky. And in Louisville, Kentucky, my career opportunities were very limited. So when that ended, within about a month, I realized I can do whatever. I don't have to consider 2 people now. I can do whatever I want. So that's what ended up being kind of a catalyst for me applying for and receiving a promotion in my company and being moved over back to the Pacific Northwest, where I grew up in Northern California. So this to me is home. This is home in my heart. Out of the 8 states that I've lived in, this landscape is what feels like home. So what I originally would have assigned and said, oh, that's awful. In hindsight, over time, adding perspective, adding information, that's actually a good thing. So, and I hope he's doing well as well. So again, for me, it's not good or bad. It just is. Oh, so I got a flat tire. Okay, it's not good. It's not bad. I just have a flat tire. What's the next right thing that I need to do in order to address this? And sometimes I don't know what the next right thing is to do to address this. So what I need to do is gather more information. So that's part of my process. Something happens. I'm uncomfortable, or it sucks, or it's kind of, and I say, okay, do I need to gather more information about this? And if I do, then I don't need to make a decision about it. I don't need to react to it. I don't need to, get into action and start, futzing around with the situation. Sometimes, and my mentor tells me this all the time, sometimes I can just let it be. If it's not urgent and I don't have enough information to make the right decision, I can just let it be. So that's how I deal with when I've got a GOTS, a growth opportunity that sucks. That's how I kind of reason through it. So that growth opportunity that sucks, obviously, I'm uncomfortable and it involves change. And I am not unique in this, but I'm not a huge fan of change. It's uncomfortable. Over time, as I've been able to, navigate change and make better decisions and come up with a better actual decision-making process, I'm much better about dealing with change now. It doesn't panic me. It doesn't scare me the way that it used to, because I know I'm going to be okay. I have an entire lifetime of evidence that shows that I shall be okay. But in general, this story was told to me. And imagine you have your sphere of comfort. So this is the circle, and closer to the center, those are those behaviors and those patterns and those things, those comforting things that you're very used to. These are things you've done for a long time: patterns of behavior, patterns of thought, patterns of action, all of that kind of stuff. When you get closer out to that edge, you're now in an area where you're more uncomfortable. And if you go out past that edge, you are now outside of your comfort zone. This is uncomfortable. So that's, the story goes this way. There was a man who wanted to climb Mount Everest. And so he set out on day one, and he climbed as far as he could climb. And he made it about a third of the way up the mountain. And then he stopped. And he said, that's as far as I can go. He went back to the bottom. The next day, he set out from the bottom, climbed as far as he could climb, reached his limit and said, that's as far as I can go. Went all the way back down to the bottom. He did this a third time, and he came back and he said, I am not improving at all. I don't understand. My goal is to reach the top of this mountain, but I'm not getting any closer to it. And so finally someone told him, you climb as far as you can, and then you camp there. Stay there until you're ready to go to the next level, the next height. That is the same way, like for them, they would camp there and they would get acclimated to the air quality, that it gets thinner and everything like that. That is how I grow. So I have this sphere, this circle of comfort. And what I do is I try to camp around the edge. Now, I don't want to be in total panic mode all the time and totally uncomfortable, because that doesn't help me. That just means that I'm really uncomfortable in my life all the time. But what I do is I kind of camp out around that edge, and then I dip into the unknown. And as I do so more and more often, and as I'm camping around that edge, that circle of comfort increases. That means that I'm actually growing. So I encourage you, find the edge of your comfort circle and don't scare yourself, but maybe camp there for a little while. Dip in a little bit, check and see, where the edges are and how much you can actually grow. So that's what works for me. That may work for you. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday. Go out and connect with somebody. Thank you.